Do you think buying is always better than renting? Not when you're a parent. There are huge hidden lifestyle costs to home ownership that people often don't think about, especially when you're juggling kids, schools, career changes. In this video, I'll show you why renting may be the smarter move for your growing family. I'm Christina. I've been on all three sides of this. I've rented, I've owned, and I'm a landlord. I have a background in finance and I'm a former chartered accountant, so I'm going to leverage my professional experience as well as my lived practical experience to cut through some of that noise and give you a clear, structured path to making the best decision for your family. The first major benefit to renting for a growing family is flexibility. Of course, everyone thinks about this when they think about renting, but what does that mean when you are a parent? Flexibility over school zones and school districts. Buying a property in an area with a great public school district can add a massive premium. Where I am in Sydney, as well as in Melbourne in Australia, you can add an extra $1.3 million on average to buy a home in an area with a great public school district. Renting, of course, will be competitive, but there is so much more ease and flexibility of moving into an area that has a great school. The other massive consideration when it comes to flexibility is the ease of upsizing and downsizing when you are renting. Many people purchase a home when they are child free, and they make that purchase based on their current financial scenario. They calculate the mortgage payments based on their current income with two people working full time and think this is a home that I can afford. Well, in Australia where I am, 82% of mothers return to work part-time after having children. That is a massive change to your income levels if you have one person going back to work part-time. I myself was in this scenario. My husband and I bought our dream home here in Sydney based on our current income levels. Luckily, because of our conservative approach to spending our money, we did not max out our buying capacity. We purchased a home where the mortgage payments were very well within our means. And I decided after having my child that I was going to work part-time, and all of a sudden what was formerly a very comfortable payment became quite a significant financial one. So just be aware that your income level may change. And hey, it may go up as well. And that means an ease of upsizing as well down the line. The other massive benefit of flexibility is you can test drive a neighborhood before you commit. You may find yourself in a situation that what suited your lifestyle before in terms of neighborhood location no longer serves you as well with a growing family. So perhaps you found yourself living in a neighborhood you love child-free because of all the great restaurants and cafes and lively night activities. And then you become a parent and your lifestyle completely changes. You realize that actually there are not very many parks. The footpaths are really difficult to push a pram along. Maybe it's really hilly and that has been annoying to you when you have a little baby in a pram. Renting can be a really great option to test drive this before you commit. The second benefit is less problems when you are renting. Owning a home honestly just means owning more problems, which is not great for time-poor parents. Although the amount of time you spend on home repairs and maintenance varies significantly, on average between 10 to 20 hours per week on things like yard work and minor repairs, that is quite typical and obviously can increase a lot if you find you want to do major renovations. For our own property, which was brand new when we purchased it, we've had issues with the backyard drainage, we've had issues with our roof, we've had a multitude of problems, and those problems are on us. When you are renting, typically you're working with a property manager who has a Rolodex full of the best tradespeople. They coordinate that for you. It's a lot more effort and work when you own a home. Your time should have a value placed on that. On average, you should estimate maintenance being 1 to 3% of your property's value every year. So if you own a $1 million property, that means on average, you will be spending between $10,000 to $30,000 on maintenance every year. That is a hidden cost of home ownership that renters don't have to worry about. The third massive benefit to renting is the purchasing power of rent versus a mortgage. In major Australian cities like Sydney, where I live, your mortgage repayment is significantly higher than the median rental cost, up to about 50% higher than renting. So this is the biggest mistake that people make when they rent. They do not take advantage of the fact that rent goes further than a mortgage payment and spend too much money on rent. You should take advantage of the fact that rent is so much cheaper than a mortgage payment and invest the difference. So let's say, for example, you have a 3-bedroom home in your neighborhood, which would cost you $3,000 per month in mortgage repayments to own it, but renting is only $2,000 per month. What you should be doing is investing the $1,000 difference into the stock market, into a high interest savings account, into an ETF, growing that money. And that is how you build equity while you are renting. What most people do is they say, but I can afford $3,000 a month and I can get so much more for that. So I'm just going to get a better, bigger property in a better location and blow too much of my income on my rent and not actually put anything away in savings. And they are therefore building no equity whatsoever. So this is a huge caveat. If you do rent and you want to make it financially better, you must also invest the difference, invest the savings, take advantage of the fact that it is cheaper. When you're renting, you are shielded from economic downturns more than if you are a home owner. Yes, I'm talking about interest rates. So this one really does depend where you are physically located. In Australia, variable rate mortgages are the norm, which means that we see fluctuations along with interest rates. In the US, fixed is the more popular choice, where you can get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which means that you don't experience any fluctuations over up to 30 years and you have that locked in. This is probably very fresh in people's minds because here in Australia, between May of 2022 and November of 2023, we saw 13 rate hikes, which was painful, let me tell you, as a homeowner. Of course, renters saw an increase in rent in that same period, absolutely, but rents did not increase as drastically and as frequently as they did with home ownership. With rent, typically you can only raise rent every year or so, whereas if you are a homeowner, you can expect that your mortgage repayments can actually change multiple times a year. Nearly 18.5% of mortgage holders were classified as extremely at risk of mortgage stress. And here in Australia, you can offset that by placing more of your money into an offset account that can counteract the effects of interest rate hikes. But of course, that depends how liquid you are, how much cash you actually have available to do that. So I do believe that a benefit of renting is that you have more consistency. You know exactly how much you are going to be paying in rent for up to a year, and that allows you to financially plan so much better. The last benefit I will cover is specific to Australia, and that is the benefit of no stamp duty. Stamp duty is a tax you must pay upfront upon the purchase of a property between typically 4.5% to 5.5%. Other countries, such as the United States, do not have such a concept of stamp duty. The thing about stamp duty is that it forces you to hold on to a property for so much longer if you want to own it. And this really ties back into the flexibility we discussed earlier. The average tenure for holding on to a house in Australia is over 11 years. You have to hold on to a property for that much longer because stamp duty is so high. You need to ensure that your house appreciates much more than not only what you purchased it for, but also the stamp duty. My first property I ever purchased was in the United States. It was in California. Because there is no stamp duty, I was able to purchase that property, and in only 2 years, it made a significant amount of return where I could sell it and be financially better off. That 11-year-long commitment may not suit you if you are in that phase of life with a young family where there may be a lot of uncertainty around your income, around where you want to live, etc. It is such an important thing to call out, though, that when you do sell your own primary residence in Australia, you are exempt from paying capital gains tax. That is a huge benefit to home ownership, and I'm going to discuss that in my next video. Let's move into a strategic self-assessment. These are some questions you should absolutely be asking yourself before you make the decision if you should buy or rent. The first question is about financial affordability. Can you afford to buy a home today and tomorrow? If you are considering purchasing a home now and you do not have children, do not underestimate the change to your income you may experience when you become a parent. 82% of mothers return part-time after they have a child. There's also parental leave and the huge expense of having a child, medical costs, childcare. Your financial situation is going to change drastically when you become a parent. My advice is never to max out your borrowing capacity. Living below your means is always the way to go financially to build wealth. Ensure that you can buy a house that you can afford easily today and tomorrow. If I continue to rent, will I have the financial discipline to invest those rent savings? The benefit of home ownership is that it's forced savings. You purchase your home and you are building equity every month by paying off some of that principal, as well as your home is appreciating in value. When you rent, it is all voluntary. You must have the discipline to then invest the savings. Take advantage of the fact that rent is cheaper, and you should ideally be setting aside about 20% of your income towards savings and investing that money. I have more on this topic in my 5 simple money tips if you want to dig into that. Ask yourself, is my life stable enough for a 7 to 10 year long commitment? If you live somewhere where there is stamp duty, as I previously explained, you are going to need to hold on to that property for at least 7 to 10 years in order for that property to appreciate above and beyond what you paid for in addition to stamp duty. If you anticipate moving, making a significant career change, if you have instability over your income, if it is very volatile, let's say you're an entrepreneur starting your own business, you may find that renting could better suit your lifestyle in this particular phase of life. What is more important to you in this phase of life? Is it flexibility or stability? Renting provides a lot of flexibility, whereas home ownership provides a lot of stability. If you like knowing the fact that nobody can boot you out, it is your property, you can make it your own, that provides a lot of stability. Or if you value that flexibility of moving around, be it for school districts, changing jobs, or if you have lifestyle changes, if you want to try and test out a new neighborhood, maybe you value that flexibility a little bit more. Have I budgeted for hidden costs if you are planning to buy a home? It is not just stamp duty. It is not just the deposit. It is also the maintenance costs that I mentioned, between 1% to 3% of the property purchase value every single year. You need to factor that into your equation of determining what is in your price range. Can you handle financial volatility? If you live somewhere where variable rate mortgages are the norm, can you handle the volatility that comes with that? Buying exposes you so much more to those interest rate swings and economic downturns. What is the value I place on my time? Do I truly have the time to invest in home ownership? Again, this is between 10 to 30 hours per month. Not to mention the significant amount of time that is required to identify a property. Can be a multi-year long process to even find a home. Is this a particular phase of your life where you feel like you have that time to allocate? What is the most important family financial goal for me? Is your financial goal to buy a home? Is it to pay off debt, start your own business and invest in yourself? Is it to have a more diversified stock portfolio? There are lots of different things that you could be using that money for, and ask yourself, what is the most important, highest priority for you? Renting really frees up capital so that you can pursue those other financial goals. In terms of my final takeaways, look, don't ever believe someone who tells you that one is always better than the other. It totally depends on your unique financial situation and what your values and goals are. It largely depends on the city that you live. In this video, we really went deep into the market in Australia, but it's going to look a little bit different depending on where you are located. A lot of financial experts will really just talk about the financial impact of rent versus buy, but really it's such a lifestyle choice, and it really depends on the values that you have as a family. There are so many more considerations than just the finances. In my next video, I'm going to explore some of the benefits of home ownership and why home ownership may be the better choice for you, as well as explore more of those strategic self-assessment questions. So please don't forget to check that out. For more videos like this, please hit subscribe to My Family Strategist. I hope you have a wonderful day.